Hey guys, Narrated Potato here, and today we are going to rank the tanks in Darkest Dungeon 2. In Darkest Dungeon 2, I define a tank as a high HP, front rank character with the ability to taunt and some form of self-sustain. This describes three heroes in Darkest Dungeon 2, the Hellion, Leper, and Man-at-Arms. We'll start with each hero's tank-specific skills, and then how their hero paths interact with their overall build. The Hellion is a 39 base HP hero, making her the lowest of the three tank classes. Her taunt move, Toe-to-Toe, gives her 2 taunt tokens at base and 3 on upgrade, as well as immobilizing her. This is notable as the only 3 taunt skill in the game. She has 2 sustain moves, first Adrenaline Rush, which heals bleed and all dots on upgrade, as well as giving her a buff that allows her to heal on attack. And second, Raucous Revelry, which is a self-heal and team stress heal. Hellion is the only tank which does not have self-sustain in the form of block tokens on their base kit, which combined with her lower max HP makes Wanderer Hellion the weakest as a pure tank class. Now let's move on to her hero paths. The tank relevant stat changes on Berserker give her minus 33% HP in exchange for plus 20% death blow resistance. This is an absolutely awful trade-off. With good relationships and or an in-item, you can get at or to the 90% death blow res cap by yourself, making the extra res entirely useless. Even if you do get full use of this additional resistance, it is still much worse to allow RNG to decide your fate rather than just keep your max HP and not have to roll on survival. If you're looking to tank, this is by far the worst path, even worse than base Wanderer. Next we have Ravager, which is a primary damage path, which also gives you 33% max HP in exchange for a chance to apply bleed to yourself on turn start. With Hellion's multiple self-heals and dot clear, this makes Hellion much more viable as a tank. It may not be her primary role, but you can feel confident that you can toe-to-toe and eat the damage and be fine. Her newest path, Carcass, is a pure tank build that makes her elite at the specific task. This path gives her a winded token every round, and at turn end has a chance to add a block token for each winded she has. This is notable as the only source of block the character has. In addition, her Barbaric Yop skill, which normally applies a front rank AoE weak and stun on combo at the cost of a winded token, now grants her 2 taunt tokens as well. Between near perpetual block token generation, multiple sources of taunt, as well as AoE weak, Carcass is exceptional at providing your team defense. Overall, the Hellion is the weakest overall choice as a tank in my opinion. She has the lowest HP, and except on Carcass doesn't generate any block tokens. Her shining attribute is her 3 taunt token upgrade and multiple healing sources, but of course the downside there is if you're healing you aren't taunting, and if you aren't taunting you generally aren't tanking. She sees much better use on average as a damage main. The exception is Carcass though, which is arguably the best pure tank build in the game at the cost of flexibility. Now to the Leper, the highest HP hero in the game. He has 2 taunt abilities, the first of which gives him 2 block tokens, which become block plus on upgrade, a dot resist buff, and an additional block token on turn start for the next few rounds. His second taunt move also allows him to apply 2 weak to any enemy rank 1 through 4 unupgraded. He also has a massive self HP and stress heal, which unfortunately has a use limit of 2. Leper is certainly the most daunting of the 3 tanks base kits, although his upgrades are nothing to write home about. Now let's look at his paths. His damage path, Tempest, gives him a staggering minus 33% max HP and minus 3 speed, which really takes the wind out of his sails as far as tanking goes. His unique path, Monarch, gives him an equally troubling minus 30% max HP in most combats, but against cosmic enemies, which include Shamblers, Cultists, and the Act bosses, he gets plus 50% max HP back for an impressive net plus 20%. This is certainly more viable as a tank class since it redeems itself in some of the hardest fights of the game, although it becomes much more of a primary damage in this scenario. Finally, we have Poet. Poet gives Leper plus 100% self-healing, which makes his upgraded Solemnity a full heal. Of course, the negative is you still only have 2 uses, but this gives you much more flexibility knowing you can just full heal every time. In addition, he receives full resistance to stun and move, meaning you can plant him in rank 1 and he'll always have his Intimidate skill available to self-taunt and weak. Easily the best Leper path as far as tanking goes. Overall, the Leper's base HP and kit make him a formidable tank, but 2 of his paths drain his HP. He's still certainly viable, but assuming your top priority is tanking, you'll much prefer either Base Wanderer or Poet, which is up there with Carcass as a top tank class. Finally, we have Man-at-Arms. The Man-at-Arms has 3 viable tank paths: a taunt ability, a stress heal, vuln removal, 2 ways of self-healing, a unique guard ability, and countless ways of generating block tokens. His signature taunt, Retribution, gives him 2 taunt tokens and 2 repose tokens, and delivers 2 block on upgrade. His unique guard move, Defender, gives him 2 block tokens and applies 2 guard actions on a hero of your choice, upgrading to block plus and 3 guard. His stress heal removes vulnerable from the target and gives himself block. His base attack, Crush, gives a 10% heal on combo and a staggering 20% on upgrade. Strategic Withdrawal gives a 33% heal on upgrade when you're at death's door, equivalent to Leper's Solemnity. And finally, Stand Fast gives you 2 immediate block tokens, plus on upgrade, and generates another block on all subsequent rounds. Basically what we have here is a broad and diverse set of skills, all of which contribute to his base ability as a tank. Now let's look at his paths. First up is Sergeant. Sergeant gives Man-at-Arms move res, self-vuln removal on bolster, and a chance of applying broad dot res on your allies at turn start. This is all pretty solid, just overall weaker than the other paths, and not much to discuss. A slight Wanderer upgrade as far as pure tanking goes. Next is Bulwark, his newest path. Not to be confused with Vanguard, which was previously named Bulwark. This makes Stand Fast a taunt ability. While this is pretty strong as far as pure tanking in a vacuum goes, in practice it's not that impactful since Retribution and Riposte is generally preferable. Still, this gives you taunt and block unupgraded, so it's still a nice tank boost over Wanderer and Sergeant. Finally, we have Vanguard. A quite strong 20% HP boost at the cost of some dot resistance is great. While not strictly a tank upgrade, the boosted retribution damage means it's viable to perma-spam Riposte as a damage main, making this in practice the most alluring of all tank paths. As you can see, every single Man-at-Arms path makes him stronger and viable as your primary tank. This, along with the staggeringly diverse skill set, makes him the strongest overall tank in the game. Now, as for tank tier list and final rank, let's go from worst to first. Berserker is obviously far and away the worst, followed closely by Wanderer Hellion, which is slightly below Tempest and Monarch Leper. Ravager Hellion is next. Carcass, Wanderer, and Poet Leper, and all 4 Man-at-Arms paths are what I consider the A tier. I'd probably leave Wanderer, Leper, and Man-at-Arms just outside the top 5. Sergeant and Bulwark are 5 and 4 respectively. Now a disclaimer. I believe all the 3 top finalists are all superb and extremely close, making the rankings much more of a personal preference rather than an objective exercise. I'll put Poet in 3rd, simply because of his heal use limit and lack of diversity. Vanguard Man-at-Arms comes in at 2, boosted by his fantastic variety of skills and his dangerous taunt, but with the path not providing much of a buff with the dot res lost balancing out the HP gain. Carcass is my number 1 tank because of the fantastic utility of Barbaric Yop, the variety of healing methods, the constant block generation, and the 3-action taunt ability. Now, with this decided, I'll point out Carcass is still one of my least favorite and least used paths, paling in comparison to Vanguard, which is in my opinion still one of, if not the strongest overall path in the game. Going to show that even though tanking is extremely valuable, Darkest Dungeon 2 is still a game that requires heroes to play a variety of roles and maintain a diverse kit. Thank you for watching. Follow and subscribe for more Darkest Dungeon 2 content. Let me know in the comments your favorite tank class and path.